Good morning, Samoa, and welcome back to Doctor Who, Series 1, Episode 6, Rogue, where I totally didn't realize I wasn't live and we were playing the Hoodle, where you guess the episode from the frames, and Caden was just being wowed by me. But yes, today, of course, we are covering Rogue. I forgot to full screen the episode before revealing it. God, where's chat? There's chat.
Falling apart here.
There's notes. We were playing Hoodle. It's good. But yeah, no. Caden, I'm gonna let you open with Rogue. What do you think?
This one is tricky for me. I like it. I'll give you that off the bat. I really like it. But pinpointing how much I like it, I feel like there's so many things happening. It's like 2 episodes in one.
Not quite the response I was expecting, but I think you're still close enough. I'm sorry, Caden, this might not be naturally a 1-hour stream because it's my turn, right? For Alex, it was Boom. For you, it was Dot and Bubble. For me, it's Rogue. I didn't like it. The fan base loves this episode. The fan base instantly adores. I'm seeing a few more negative voices since the hour after it came out. This is one that I'm gonna be ripped to shreds for by most of the fan base. It really. I'm just gonna tell you here. The number I'm giving this out of 10 is gonna be below Space Babies.
Wow.
This one did not for me. Which is also a really bad episode, especially if you're coming here the first time to open and say I don't like the one with a interracial gay kiss. That's not a. But hey, come back in a few weeks when we do Girl in the Fireplace, and I'll critique that intra-racial heterosexual kiss for the similar reasons. No, I really jumped the gun here because there are 3 notes I wanted to talk about other episodes real quick.
Okay.
First off, 73 yards. I always do that wrong. This is something someone pointed out on Reddit, and everyone was like, well done. Because you know how there was the note that said Mad Jack on it?
Yeah.
And it was oh, maybe it's the prime minister or someone's an evil spirit. And I think I was Mad Jack's just some weird thing they wrote on a note, right? It means nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Mad Jack. Mad Jack. Magic. It's the puns, Caden. It's the puns. When Russell T. Davison puns, we even know. I saw that. I was like, damn, that's good. Now didn't no one knows. Yeah, no. So
God,
I needed that.
So good.
Oh, Caden, wait. I saw a little frame of the next time on, and that pun. There's definitely the twist of the finale is based off a pun.
Oh gosh.
Actually, literally, I think the Susan twist of the finale is based off of. But anyway, the subtitle. This is something I've been wanting to bring up for literally since church. I don't know how you watching these. I mentioned I watched these with my wife on the TV with not the best sound quality. God damn, Disney Plus every time. About 15 minutes into the episode on the Roku. There's a scene transition, and it just gives up on subtitles. And you can't turn them on. You turn them off and on again. It won't do it. What the heck? Imagine if I was actually deaf. I literally couldn't watch this series of Doctor Who, because Disney's subtitles give up after 15 minutes. And I don't. I've wanted to bring that up so much because, God, it's such a simple thing to do. And it's consistently every time. And we'll usually realize at some point, hang on, where'd they go? Where'd the subtitles go? But
Do the older ones, do they have them now? Now, after the fact? Are they just lagging behind?
They exist. Legally. I know in America, I don't know if I don't really know the exact laws, but I'm sure the UK has similar laws that you need the subtitles if you're going to broadcast, which this Doctor Who does, so the subtitles exist, but they just fail. Actually, I think there was something on Disney Plus I looked on. I had to skip forward in an episode and the subtitles maintained. But yeah, I don't. It's not that they only did 15 minutes of subtitles; it's that they just break. And yeah, that sucks. Finally, a bit of meta news. The final episode review, of course, it would be the final one, which would be the 22nd in 2 weeks, is something weird's going to happen. Like, it's going to be moved, we're quite sure, because somebody can't make that date.
I think you mean it would be the 23rd.
Yes, you're right. It would be the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what we're going to do, because... actually, to be fair, I also have something on the 23rd. But, like, we'll have to find something. You're quite busy.
Yeah.
Like, but we should sort this out by next week. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to delay it a week, but, that's going to be a long one. There's a lot of ground, and I don't want to be covered. But that's it for now. As I said, it sounds like we've got a bit of a time pressure with you, Caden. Mm-hmm. Let's give the positives. Let's start with your kind of positive overall views on this episode.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, broad strokes?
Yeah, well, you've been doing this enough. You should probably know how the stream works. But yeah,
I like
strokes.
the setting and the atmosphere. That was, of course, just great and cool.
Yeah.
I really liked the dynamic between the Doctor and Rogue. Mm-hmm. Sort of up until it got romantic, but not because, like, I don't know how often the Doctor has gotten romantic. Because it did happen,
a while on this topic.
I was like, whoa, so we'll get to that, yeah. But I really like their character dynamics, and I hope we find Rogue again, because I want to learn more about that character, too. They set up a lot there.
I love how I've shown you season 1 of Doctor Who, like with 9, and you're already kind of like a Doctor Who fan. It's like, I don't like it when the Doctor does romance. You're like, you've really come quickly.
I liked the concept of the shapeshifters. The execution was fine for me, like a 7 out of 10 on execution, but the idea was really cool.
Yeah, for me,
it was just fun.
As you said, the setting. We've said many times before, when the BBC, it's like famous for historical settings and like drama pieces. Bridgerton, they keep dropping. I should have checked this actually. I'm pretty sure it's BBC. It's funny actually. I went aside to my wife when they said, "Is that BBC?" And I went, "So, like, there's strict product placement rules for the BBC. Like, even if it's not paid for." And so I'm like, it's almost certainly BBC. And then they reference like Dungeons and Dragons and Willy Wonka and a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't BBC. Throughout, like, after that point in the episode, I was like, oh. Which actually was interesting. That, like, maybe Rogue will get a spin-off like Captain Jack did. You know how much I will laugh if Rogue is the source of the new adult-oriented spin-off, just like Captain Jack, because we will get into how Rogue is just Captain Jack. But yeah, the setting, the set design, the set work, costuming, all wonderful. What are they called? The Shodan something?
Shapeshifter people.
Yeah, the shapeshifter ones, the great makeup. Of course, the BBC's Department of Wardrobes. I'm sure they've probably gotten like an actual manor in Bath to film, but this garden thing, this whole setup here, which I would imagine the manor doesn't just look like this. Like 10 out of 10, blown away. That might be my positive note of the episode. Yeah, no, for me, I want to open that I haven't seen Bridgerton. I literally learned Bridgerton existed because of this episode of Doctor Who. At which point I thought it was a series until afterwards my wife and I were talking and they mentioned it was a book. Mm-hmm. It is a TV series, but based off a book. But and I just never have seen anything like Bridgerton, really. The closest thing I've gotten to that sort of like drama, romance, sitcom-esque is that Stephen Moffat used to write sitcoms, and I've seen his Doctor Who. Oh. That's the closest I've got. Was Boom. That's the closest I've got to a sitcom. And so this episode might be more enjoyable if I was, because this was almost like a, maybe not quite a parody, but it was definitely playing off sort of those sort of tropes and ideas. And my wife was like, absolutely yes, because my wife has seen Bridgerton. And so that's just an aspect I wouldn't get. You know, if they were playing off of like Star Trek, you know, maybe it's something I could. So that's kind of on me. But otherwise, I just never really saw like the chemistry between the Doctor and Rogue. I didn't really get why, especially over the course of like 5-10 minutes, he was like in love now, like totally. And I wonder, yeah. So the Doctor has actually, I'm gonna pull up something on Doctor Who Reddit. The Doctor has done romance before, other than like a flirtatious Aztec in the 60s. All of it is like modern Who. The first kiss the Doctor had was in the TV movie, and it was really controversial at the time. Sorry, let's look at the ratings distribution of Doctor Who so far. As I said, we bias 10 and 1.
20, yeah.
Oh yeah. So here's this post of like someone against the homophobia. Is if you weren't bothered by any of those. Yeah, 9, you just saw 9, of course. That's kind of his story of getting with Rose. 10, 10 kisses like basically every woman that comes. In fact, like I don't remember 10 kissing Jackie, but apparently he does at some point. 11 also had a fair few I mean, you got River, but 11 was a little less so. But yeah, it's very much a thing that happens now. Generally, and this is what I find interesting that the fan base love this episode, generally, the fans, like big fans, not so much casual audience, don't really like it. And I'd agree, it's kind of like I don't just see it as interesting, especially when it's the Doctor-companion relationship. It's just not something I'm into. I like it much better when they're just friends. And a lot of the highest rating companions among fans are just that. It's like Donna, who's steps in the TARDIS going like, you ain't getting none of that sunshine. Like, you're just a big, thin piece of nothing. And so, yeah, it felt kind of rush. And as well, okay, he's Jack Harkness, right?
Yeah.
You got this too.
I see it.
I was just watching him like, I guess we're doing Jack again. I understand that you might not want to bring John Barrowman back to play Jack, but I'm like, I've seen Jack. I remember this. It just kind of had Discount Jack vibes for me.
They're definitely similar characters. Yeah.
And to kind of play devil's advocate, the Doctor at this point is like 2,000 something years old. He's in his low 2000s. And so like at that point, you know what you want, probably. Like, it's not necessarily, if the Doctor found like his soulmate, that he would instantly kind of get there. But I just didn't see the chemistry. Like,
yeah, I would have. It was all for me that it was like within the span of one episode, I meet you, I'll get intimate with you, and then I'll die for you. In one episode was a lot. And I would have loved to see that exact relationship over the span of like 4 to 5 episodes.
Season 1 of Doctor Who, yeah. I was like perfectly fine if he was just kind of, especially with the vibe of the episode, like he's out, he's met a guy he finds attractive. Let's just have like a fun night out. Not even maybe considering where it goes somewhere, but like maybe it does. And like, fair, this is an emotional modern Doctor, like more casual about the relationships. Sure. But at the end, it's like, no, it's very clearly this is like my new soulmate, I just didn't feel it, and so it didn't really connect with me. Which is a lot of the critique I have, as I mentioned, Girl in the Fireplace. We've brought it up before. It's a Stephen Moffat episode. The only one he's written from Russell T. Davies that I don't think is very good. Where it's basically the same thing. He falls in love with like Madame de Pompadour from like fancy old times. it's just really weird and out of place, especially being in love with Rose at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But that episode has interesting intrigue. Like, why is there a space station that's hooked up to different points in the past? It's got cool clockwork robots. It's got stuff like that. There's sort of a puzzle. There's other elements going on. But with this, you kind of mentioned as well with the execution of the shapeshifters, which like their sort of race I think was done well. Like the sounds and like sort of twitches they do is great. It's horrible, but in like the great sort of way from design. That was all good, but like they were such a kind of absent part of the episode for me.
Yeah.
That there was a point where they're all in bird form and they're chasing the Doctor and Rogue, right? And my wife goes, "This is actually a really good historical." To which I was about to chime in, and it's actually a pure historical, meaning it's in the past and there's absolutely no science fiction other than like the TARDIS and the Doctor. And of course I immediately realized, well, you just agreed with me. I immediately realized that's not true because we got these 4 shape-shifting bird aliens. But they were kind of so not really an important part of the plot that my brain could even connect. Actually, there are no aliens in this. It's just a historical. Which we haven't had a pure historical since the 5th Doctor. And the one before that was the 2nd Doctor. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So to me, it was kind of a more standard episode, which is good. Like, a lot of this one is shaking up the format.
Yeah. It was stepping in that direction.
I hesitate to call it standard because it was kind of focused on the Doctor romancing someone, which isn't a super normal, but it's very close. I'm willing to do it.
Closer than we've been.
Oh yeah, like it's
not there.
If we didn't have like 5 weird episodes in this season, I'd say this is a normal episode. Actually, I might say this is like an odd episode if we were surrounded by normal ones. But that's good. And I kind of want to say that there's like nothing going on, even though I know that's not technically true. But what happened in this episode? The Doctor met Rogue. He met some attractive bounty hunter. He fell in love and then lost him. Actually, that is what happened in this episode.
I feel like the purpose was far more just to have character. I think it was a more character-driven and focused episode.
I just didn't connect with that main relationship.
Yeah.
Can't wait for your moment, like in Dot and Bubble when you came out with a 6.5. And I was like, you didn't sound like a 6.5.
Yeah, I think I have similar critiques. I think as you. It's just I felt a little more. I was a little more fine with it.
But you like this, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it because everything else that was happening in the episode, I really liked the character interactions, like in regards to other people as well, or even the Doctor towards the people, or I was gonna call her Rose, Ruby towards the like friend that's also secretly a bird, and the moment when the Doctor thinks that Ruby does die. And that whole like 5-minute sequence of like despair to anger to action, and then learning that Ruby's not actually dead. That was really cool. And I just think there were a lot of little moments in this episode that, as it kept happening, I was like, "Oh, this is good."
It could have been cool if just don't turn on battle mode wasn't such an obvious. I'm just gonna hang this gun up above the fireplace. And don't worry, at the end, we're gonna pull the gun off of the fireplace.
Yeah.
Like, even when the bird attacked Ruby, I looked at Alex and went, I haven't forgotten about battle mode. At the start, when he said battle mode, I went, that's the solution, isn't it? Like, it was still pretty well done. Like, I still did have elements, I'll admit, of like, are they gonna kill Ruby? Like, is the next 2 episodes gonna be fake Ruby? That'd be fascinating. Because
of back in Boom, how close Ruby got to death, it it had me thinking in the moment because of that. Like, yeah, the similar thoughts of would they do that? The fact that it was on the table
The
was
fact that
very interesting.
Ruby had died in half of the appearances we'd seen her in as of last episode. Not anymore. We tipped the balance. She has to die in both the next episodes to do that. So yeah, there were still elements. It was just, come on, you probably could have done it better, Russell. Like, surely you didn't write the battle mode thing and that knowing you would use it. It feels like you almost had to go back and say, don't do battle mode. But it'd be a minor gripe if other bits gripped me, but maybe this sort of thing, like the Bridgerton style of storytelling, just isn't for me, and that's fine. But at the same time, like, I don't really care about the court intrigue because I don't know any of these characters, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe if I did have a connection, it'd be more interesting, but it just... So my wife liked to tell me the vibes were just kind of off for me on this one.
We all have one this season, you know, it's all right.
I mean, I'll be the first to tell you the Doctor's been gay for like the past 5 generations, minus 12. And honestly, 12 was probably gay, I just can't remember an instance. 12 didn't really do romance. I've just realized why 12 is so highly rated amongst fans. It just clicked. I'm like, guys, he's good, but he does have problems. It literally just clicked with me there that even though he's technically canonically in love with his first companion, but this is another. We don't have time. Look, it's a can of worms I'm not gonna open.
There's a lot of cans of worms in Doctor Who.
Oh, Caden, wait till we get to the holographic Doctor scene. We're about to open a can of worms. I think I'd like to start the scene by scene as we're kind of approaching our half-hour mark, and there's some things I do want to get into. Do you have to leave like at 1? Do you have a hard time that you have to go?
I can go a little over.
Okay, I'll try and fit in the stuff I really want to talk about with you then. But I did want to point out the Doctor's Sonic is red in this one.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to take mental note of that.
You noticed in Devil's Cord, and I was like, no, it's a reflection.
Yeah.
It's just like another casing, you know, that he can swap.
Yeah, I don't think it means much, but I feel proud.
It's really weird that we hadn't like established or shown it the first time, you know? But I think it is also a comment just on how poorly this season is structured, that for like the first half of it, there's a very convincing argument that it's being broadcast out of order just for weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Susan twist of this episode? Because Alex and I didn't.
The picture. Right?
We didn't recognize her. It is her. Even I was in the moment like, why is Ruby calling out this painting? It's just some woman. I'm like, she'll probably come in later. But we were skipping ahead to check the credits for something in the Doctor Who section. I forgot there was a next time on, and we happened to pause on a frame that showed this picture and mentioned, like, I've seen that woman before, was the voice line. I went, oh shit, I missed that one. Well done.
Yeah, I wasn't fully sure, but I was thinking about it, but then Ruby was like,
it is.
Who's that? And I was like, oh, yeah, it is.
In my defense, not my wife's defense, but my defense, being face blind, this right here is the only part of Susan Twist I don't rely on to recognize her. Ooh, here's something generally I'm curious here on. This scene when the Doctor meets Rogue, and there's a few other places, but this is probably the most explicit. The orchestra's playing anachronistic music. I don't know the song. My wife recognizes it. It's like Bad Boy or something like that. It's thematically appropriate. Do you have any thoughts of like the actual orchestra in the ballroom playing anachronistic music? Sort of that. It's kind of fourth wall.
Yeah, I never clocked it. I think I'm fine with it because it also wasn't. They didn't bring attention to it within this story in any way that would make me think it's something other than just they kind of wanted this song.
Yeah, we'll
it could
get
be
into
something
more how you can't just do I'm doing this because you want it and there are ramifications. Oh, Shulka. But I feel like I don't like it, but I'm not gonna complain too much. But I very much feel if it was something I knew, like I don't know, for example, Bad Romance or Poker Face,
Yeah.
which one was it? Like then I would complain a lot more, but because I don't know the song, it's just music.
Yeah, I think I'm neutral.
I will say though, when it was Poker Face, surely you caught that one.
It was towards the end.
It was during the fight with Ruby and the Bird Lady. Surely you caught. It was
I do think I remember it, but I don't know if it was Poker Face.
It was Poker Face or it was Katy Perry. But I love that one, and the difference is that one is incidental music. It's not the actual band in the thing. And I think there was one other case. Oh yeah, it was Willy Wonka. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's. Look, we'll get into canon when we get to the Shulka Doctor. Right, here's a little detail I noticed. So Ruby is spying because they want to watch Bridgerton on the couple. They're the Birdman and his friend, right?
Yeah.
I realized on my second watch through, those are both bird people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, they're it's like cosplaying, they're acting. But
Yeah.
I was like, well, hopefully they're not like a family or something. That'd be kind of, oops. But Rogue does, when he knows there's more than one, kind of theorize it's a Chota family.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were about to, go at it.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
but those are the two that are getting married.
I just found it kind of funny that this episode, I think, accidentally put some incest into it.
Well, it could be, a family and then the one who's joining the family.
Yeah, Rogue could also be wrong. Like, it's just something. Rogue didn't know there was more than one, so he has no reason to know it's a family. But that one was kind of funny.
I do think one thing that bothers me in the episode more than I think it should.
Is the Shulka Doctor. Oh, no, go on.
Is what?
We'll get there.
It's that the shapeshifters refer to what they're doing as cosplay.
Oh, yeah, I'm the villain of this episode again. That's the second time this season.
I just feel like, for so many reasons, they wouldn't call that cosplay. They would have their own word for it.
They are doing cosplay, but
yes,
they are also doing. It's more reenactment, but it's like, it's not wrong,
It isn't wrong, but it's like, I feel like those bird people in their own bird culture and bird world wouldn't use the human word for the human culture of the human act.
Universal translator, It translates concepts and ideas as well. I'm pretty sure that's been established in TV, not just
it tracks. But I'm telling you, I acknowledge it bothers me more than it should.
You're right. It bothers you more than it should. I'll give you that.
That's as it is.
No, I'm like, you did lead with that. You did lead that it bothers you more than it should. Fair enough. You want something that bothers me more than it should?
Yes.
Rogue's ship looks like a bird.
It does.
And he's chasing birds.
Birds.
This is entirely coincidental. His ship isn't part of the bird race. It's like some old freighter. That bothers me. It's like, well, why is it a bird? Like, unless it comes back later. Because, Rogue mentioned, he has a line. I wrote it down somewhere. He has a line that's like, ever since we got this new boss, this job has so much more paperwork. Which is interesting. I missed it the first time. Yeah, this job has so much paperwork ever since we got that new boss. Because loads of other villains have also mentioned some boss. The Toymaker and Meep from the 60th. Other people, I'm sure. I can't remember. It's been like a month. But it's been a recurring theme. I think, did Church? Someone mentioned a big boss. And so some people have theorized that Rogue might be working for that big boss. Which is I don't think there's intentions to bring Rogue back at the moment though. Like, bear in mind, Jack was introduced in a story written by Stephen Moffat, not the showrunner. But this episode isn't written by Russell T Davies; it's written by somebody else. So, and it focuses so heavily on Rogue. I'd have to imagine if they were like, right, we're bringing him back. It wouldn't be a guest writer, because like the Gas Mask Child one isn't about Jack; it just introduces Jack. Which also makes, again, it's Girl in the Fireplace, where Stephen Moffat was like, hey, you got this whole Rose thing going on, but like, what about Madame de Pompadour, you know? What if the Doctor gets something going on there?
I feel like I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's direct in the plans, but like the door was left open.
Yeah. No, they left the door. So actually, I do know some behind the scenes. The writer for this episode, it's actually two, they kind of left that in where the Doctor put the ring on and is like, the find me. They put that in the script in the first draft, and Russell T Davies just like let them keep it there. And so they were like, cool. You didn't remove that like we thought you would. So he's definitely not planned to be a new companion, but he can always come back later, you know. Big Finish, it'll just be a, you know, once after 15 regenerates, we'll get him in Big Finish.
I did thoroughly enjoy I don't know if it's happened, it couldn't have happened before. I don't, maybe, but that and I knew it wasn't going to go down this route, but the fact that the Doctor was offered to be the companion to someone, I just thought it was a cool moment, because the Doctor's not a companion. Well, he has companions.
It was more kind of a counter, like, I won't join you because you won't join me. But that was, that was good. Can we acknowledge, though, how beautiful this ship set is? It's almost good. A TARDIS as well. Like, it's too dark for the Doctor's TARDIS, but if the Master showed up in this, I'd buy it. Like, it's got that clutter and homely vibe that the Doctor's TARDIS is just missing right now. It's a good green lighting, well writ, good aesthetic. It bothers me that everyone is critiquing his clutter and they're praising the Doctor's cleanliness. I'm like, no, this is the aspect you're missing.
I like the clutter thematically though as well, because Rogue's all like depressed and used to have someone, I guess, who would clean
That's true. I see it more as like all the adventures and stuff he's going on, which is why the Doctor should have a collection of junk. And canonically he does. It just who knows where it is this season. Oh yeah, he brought out the psychic paper. Has that made an appearance with 15 yet? Because I couldn't remember it.
Ooh.
Part of me wants to say it has, but I can't think of when. I think he might have like pulled it out to Ruby in Space Babies when he was explaining it, or it got like name dropped. But
yeah, I thought they did the same. No, I am thinking of Jack.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they recycled a joke. They did the same thing with Jack and Rose. Technically, Russell T Davies didn't write that joke, but I bring it up because it's the second recycled joke in this scene. When the computer. By the way, I'm very impressed. It identified the Sonic as a screwdriver. Somehow. He made the jokes like, I had some shelves I want to set up, which actually, looking at his room, I do believe him. This one bothers me. This comes up a lot, where it's like, it's a screwdriver. It's like, what, you gonna assemble a cabinet? Even the Doctor is like, don't you ever get bored, have some cabinets to assemble? Why does everyone go to, like, shelving for a screwdriver? Everyone does that. Like the Doctor does, the companions do. Why does everyone go to a screwdriver? Isn't it not even like a desk? It's always shelving.
Can never have too many shelves.
Okay. 12:30. Man, I feel like I'm on a time pressure I didn't know. Are you ready? 1845. Oh, by the way, they did play another anachronistic song here. I don't know the name of it, but I know the song.
I can buy that with the spaceship.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's anachronistic, but not, like, fourth wall breaking.
Mhm.
I kind of find it funny, by the way, that seeing Ten's face is what gets Rogue to stop, like formerly the sexy doctor, because it's like, yeah, right now Rogue expects this guy of being a shapeshifter. The doctor has proven it, and he's like, oh, David Tennant. I'm gonna let this play a bit. So they have every doctor who I think you would reasonably call like a main actor to play the doctor. You probably didn't catch it though. There you got 10, 13, 1. I'm gonna let that rotate a bit. This guy right here, this feller. You probably didn't notice much. I had to go back, so I was like, wait, who's that? Is that like a weird 9? But no, 9's over there.
Yeah.
You want to know who this guy is? Because I had to go back with Alex. This is why we had to check the credits. He has every doctor here. That is Richard E. Grant. Richard E. Grant. It's time for a history lesson, Caden. Way back in the space year of 2003, 21 years ago, for the 40th anniversary of Doctor Who, the like Doctor Who website department of the BBC decided it was like, BBC is not going to do anything for the 40th anniversary. Let's do something, and let's reboot Doctor Who, right? As a flash animation thing.
Oh.
And it amounted in the end to a 6-part story, kind of like the classic ones, featuring the 9th Doctor as played by Richard E. Grant. It's called Scream of the Shulka. It was kind of weird, flash animated. You could probably find it online. I'm gonna have to fucking watch it now for real. It had like the Master was some weird robot in the TARDIS that was never explained. It was kind of odd, you know. It took a while for Grant to find his footing. But it was flash animated, right? So Richard E. Grant technically didn't visually play the Doctor. I'm actually gonna get it. Shulka Doctor. I'm probably gonna get a lot of this episode. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Actually, this is a good one. That is actually looking more like Richard E. Grant, but technically that 9th Doctor looked like this. As I said, it was flash animated.
Yeah.
Hey, look, new Doctor Who in 2003. Like, that's a miracle. Now, the reason you probably haven't heard of this, other than being extremely obscure, is if you were paying attention, you'll notice I said 2003. And literally, like, the month after this came out, the proper BBC announced that they were rebooting Doctor Who with the 9th Doctor as played by Christopher Eccleston. And this died. Because why not? It's clearly not the official continuation of Doctor Who anymore.
Yeah.
And then that died. Until today. Where apparently the Shulka Doctor, as, like, visually played by an older Richard E. Grant, was a previous incarnation of the Doctor. Now, as I mentioned, I'd never actually seen Scream of the Shulka. I've seen a lot of bits. I've seen a lot of summaries. But you take one peep on the Reddit, and it's entirely inconsistent with the canon of Doctor Who. I don't think that he ever steps out of the TARDIS and goes, I am the 9th Doctor, Richard E. Grant, you know. Maybe he does. Like, he might reference previous adventures. But there isn't really room between any other incarnation to put this guy. Maybe between 2 and 3, but you really got to do a stretch there, and you also have to reconcile that by the fact that every other time we see the Doctor, we don't see this guy, and that 11 explicitly references his 13 regenerations as a plot point. I don't like this. I can headcanon it. And by the way, it's been explicitly confirmed this is because of Scream of the Shulka. I can headcanon this. You remember that whole Timeless Child ordeal I told you about, where the Doctor's got, like, stupid amount of doctors behind him? Oh, by the way, why does everyone have such weird hair? Look at Matt Smith's hair. David Tennant had weird hair. So for example, 14 has weird hair, 3 has weird hair. Here's Joe Martin, right? Like an incarnation before the first Doctor. Let's all take Richard E. Grant, throw him in a bowl, throw him somewhere behind number 1, and never speak of it again. That's my attitude. But this is the part that's sticking with me so long, Caden. Like, you can't just throw that in and be like, hey, Scream of the Ashoka was fun. Oh, look at that, 14's hair. Buddy. You can't just do that. Like, it's like, oh, it's fun. You know, Scream of the Ashoka, it's like, okay, but you've now just established this totally... So this has problems, like... First off, a lot of people say Doctor Who has never had canon and always been inconsistent, which is a premise I'd reject. Oh, wow, David C., you changed your picture. I didn't even recognize it was you. Thank you, David C., for the $25 for Richard E. Grant's historical note. Yeah, there we go, Scream of the Ashoka. I need to buy it on fucking Blu-ray now. But thank you, David C., for Scream of the Ashoka money. It's probably cost less than $25. I mean, it's a flash animation on a DVD, for God's sake. But anyway, I might even be able to buy you it for that much money. I reject that notion, because obviously, like, you know, episode 1 is probably pretty internally consistent with itself. But I also reject the notion that it is, honestly, until maybe this era, like, in just full of contradiction. But even if we accept it, that's not a reason to just say screw it and introduce more. And the problem narratively is if you don't really have some form of canon. I don't mean like, you know, oh, the Daleks are this design when really they should be this design for the episode. You know, that's something more minor. But to the point of like, you know, what actually is an incarnation of the Doctor, if you truly abandon canon, like the people who say Doctor Who has no canon, I don't think actually understand what they're arguing, because that's just nonsensical. If you don't really have some kind of framework, it's really hard to tell stories with like payoff. Because first off, why should I care about something if it could just be undone or changed later? If Ruby dies next week, why do I care if we could just bring her back? If the Scream of the Ashoka Doctor is now just suddenly alive, why do I care? Or, you know, wait, here's the 9th Doctor's right there. Like, if we're just insert, like, it, you know, obviously he's right there. But Richard E. Grant was the 9th Doctor. So, like, you know, does that mean that Christopher Eccleston isn't the Doctor? What's stopping us from just removing one? And, you know, these are probably kind of crazy theoretical scenarios I'm using for example. But there are much smaller ones. For example, I'll lead to Star Trek in this example. Newer Star Treks, there's a series on the Enterprise, Kirk's Enterprise, but it's Captain Pike, like 10 years before Kirk had it. It's got a lot of the same characters, actually. It's got Spock, Uhura, you know, some people who were in the original series as like a prequel. But it's not entirely gelling well. The sets are totally redesigned, you know, but also, like, Spock's meeting Gorn, and we just watched the Gorn episode yesterday on this channel, and he never brings up, like, hey, Captain, I've met the Gorn, and one of my best friends is an intimate relationship with the Gorn, and, like, also when we meet Khan, it's his descendant, so maybe I should bring this stuff up, you know? It's so common sort of prequel stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a very, I don't know why, but sci-fi is really loving this idea with its old franchises, where they've even canonized a big event, World War III in Star Trek, you know, big event. And the Eugenics Wars is another war in Star Trek, big event. Canonically, the Eugenics Wars used to take place in 1990, the 90s, you know. Obviously, there wasn't a Eugenics Wars. You didn't just sleep through it. But rather than kind of saying, you know, Star Trek's a different timeline, there's an episode where they push them back like 30, 40 years. And there's kind of a throwaway line that's like, oh, time travelers, like, they may try and delay these events, but they're going to happen, like one way or another. And kind of canonically establishing that events we've seen in previous series are kind of shifting, or things aren't quite as we see, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you've established a disconnect between what's actually happened in previous episodes and what we are now calling, like, canon. So, you know, say in this Star Trek, Spock meets, like, his mom, you know, when he's got some emotional episode with his mom. Well, is it actually emotional? Because, like, I've seen Spock interact with his mom in that original series, but did that actually happen? Like, is it slightly different? We know that the Khan episode is slightly different, because Khan never brings up, you know, Spock never brings up he's met one of Khan's descendants and absolutely knows who Khan is and shouldn't be questioning who is Khan. So, like, how, if you do anything with Khan, how can we say that, like, that episode actually happened? You've got these things you can't tie together. And so it can really break down stakes and tension, and kind of just going, well, like, the most extreme example of, like, a Doctor without canon is, like, Doctor and Ruby are running, like, from a monster, like, halfway through an episode. It's like, Doctor, we're trapped. He's like, don't worry. And so he plugs his nose, he raises his left arm, he spins around and goes, and then he lifts his shirt, and a baseball bat flies out of his belly button. It hits the wall and opens up into the TARDIS, and they run in. He's like, thank God, Doctor. I'm glad you can always have done this the whole time. Because you don't have canon. Like, it's never, there's no canon. Like, heck, it's not even the TARDIS. It's the blurb. That's what it's called now. You know, that's the comically extreme of, like, this is what no canon means. And also, it's not even Ruby. You know, like, you can do shows like this. As I understand it, Black Mirror is kind of like a totally new thing every week. You know, theoretically, you could tell a show where the only canon is, like, within one episode.
Yeah.
But it just chips away at things like that. And there was a line as well, like, with the Toymaker, where he made a jigsaw of the Doctor's history. And I guess that they're doing a lot of things with alternate timelines, and, like, everything is canon. Which technically the official BBC stance was, well, what do you want to be canon before? But now they're actually kind of putting it in the show, and so it's like, well, how can you have emotional payoff when you don't even know what, like, these characters have actually gone through? How can you have stakes when you're gonna straight up lie about what's happening in the episode, when you're going to have Ruby scream with obvious lightning flashes that happen when one of the bird people take over a character, when what actually happened is there is no scream, there is, like, a tiny flicker of lightning on the owl's face that's nowhere near as long or as vibrant to see when we saw Ruby get quote-unquote killed. Like, that scene just straight up lied. I wrote it down in notes. In the screen, it's like, I actually put a timestamp, 32:47. Right? 32:47. That's right, I found out how to get exact timestamps from Disney. The stream didn't hear that, but big screams, several seconds of lightning. In reality, literally no one screams, and there's, like, a boop on her face. That's what actually happened. That scene is just a lie. So now why should I trust anything that happens on screen? You could do a fake out, but, like, just have the lightning and no scream. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have complained about the length of the lightning so much. It's not a hard thing to do. Yeah. You have, like, maybe 10, 20 minutes. Do you have anything to say on that before I get to the next biggest thing I want to talk about in this episode?
I agree with you in everything you're saying. And I think for my own sake of sanity,
yeah,
I usually let most of it go. Like, I can live with the Doctor that doesn't exist floating around the Doctor that we have now's head. But there are definitely limits that I have.
Well, that's the problem. He does exist now.
Yeah, to me, it's like, that's fine, because they also didn't point at it and go, that was a fun time. Like,
You
if
know,
they did that,
yeah.
I'd go, huh?
You know the worst part to me though? Richard E.
Hmm.
Grant at his current age happens to look a lot like the Valeyard did. Do you remember when we talked about him like a week or two ago behind a spoiler zone? And so I thought it actually
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah.
setting up the Valeyard,
Mm-hmm.
and that they'd recast someone, and like that guy was going to be the Valeyard. And it turns out sometime previously, the Valeyard got created, and like we didn't notice. And I was like, everyone's like, no, that's just what Richard E. Grant looks like nowadays. Right. Here we got Ruby stuck on this triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is what it takes to get Ruby out of the triangle. Right?
No.
I'd like to establish in one of those shots, 40-20, actually probably this one. Oh no, that's where he's throwing it. Ruby is on the edge of this triangle. In fact, if she were to extend her arms, she wouldn't even be totally contained within the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I first saw this shot, well, it was a different shot, you know, but I was like, oh, you could probably pull Ruby out. But I'm like, no, we've established earlier. These are like super sticky, some sort of quantum magic. You can't get detached. Except apparently you can with like not even that much force.
Are you ranting about
Yes.
the end of the
I'm
episode
fine
again?
with this for a specific
But
reason.
it's the plot. Like, okay, stand there to the side and pull her out. If you can't do that, why is there a time rush? Everybody is currently trapped. What you have infinite time to solve this problem. In fact, you don't even need infinite time. Doctor, go to the TARDIS. The moment you leave the room, go to the TARDIS. Then materialize around Ruby the moment you left the room. Like, you don't even need infinite time. God, this is like when Adric died. This is so easy to get around. Okay, or put Ruby in the middle so you can't pull her and you need to jump. Like, you even have an angle right here. If Ruby and the Duchess were swapped, you could do this scene and it would work. There's no time pressure. There's no need to sacrifice anyone. And this is a major plot point, which is why I'm going to critique it so hard. This isn't a holographic face. This is the climax of the episode.
The getting Ruby off, I'm fine with, because when it happens, you hear like a little AI voice be like, matter exchanged. And for me, it's like, oh, they did a little Indiana Jones. They took the treasure and they left a bag of rocks on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I guess. Like, if you're going to trade that out, then it'll accept
so
it.
you need to trade something. Okay. That cello's pretty heavy, yeah? Or, like, there's somewhere between this chair and that cello, there's something that's Ruby's rate. I have no doubt.
What if it's biological?
Why would it be? I mean...
I don't know, it's meant to trap things and people.
If it's biological, if you have to exchange a body for a body, establish that. Have a line.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
I do agree.
Problem solved.
Through it all with the time crunch. I agree with that I think they should have set up like a battery or something.
Technically, she can attack Ruby, but they don't seem to want to. You know? Like, if she started attacking Ruby, sure, but they're kind of like, you know, like, I'll stand here. Could Ruby just take off her shoes, actually? Like, the shoes are what's stuck. Could Ruby just step out of her shoes and then jump off herself?
I think I remember that thought crossed my mind as well, but I didn't think I was too hung up on it, and I just assumed it did science-y
This
stuff.
isn't written by Russell T Davies, but it is such a... I'm going to do a great emotional story that really drops the ball on the... Oh, God, Caden, wait till Rose leaves. You want an emotional story that makes no goddamn sense? Wait till Rose leaves. Yeah, no, that one... Yeah, I've got my notes here. Get the Taurus to extract Ruby. And it also bothers me that, right, they can't get Rogue because they sent him to a random barren universe.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say random universe, a random Baron universe, which is like totally extreme, but let's ignore that. Whole fate worse than death thing. 15's 13 was showing. We're not gonna kill them. We're gonna send them to like a barren universe where they can starve to death. We're gonna lock the spiders in the room to suffocate and die. A humane death. But anyway, he said a barren universe. So you can't just do a random universe, because you gotta know if it's barren. Unless by barren, the Doctor Woodley meant, I don't know, this universe is a furnace. It's no different. But a barren dimension. So you had to identify a barren dimension to send them to. It'd be a lot more work to program the device to send them to a random dimension among a set of barren dimensions. You just have to find barren dimensions. You'd have to program all that rather than finding a barren dimension then using that one. I just feel like there's a 100% chance the TARDIS should know exactly where Rogue was sent. Not that you should be able to travel between dimensions nowadays, but, we'll ignore that. And the Doctor's just being an idiot, and the TARDIS is being a jealous bitch. Which, actually, that one checks out. But, I don't like this one.
It did cross my mind. I feel like Rogue's ship as well there ought to be some way to identify its own pilots.
Why send them to a random dimension, which we've kind of established is cruel? Is there not a prison cell in Rogue's ship or the TARDIS or even this manor? It looks like Rogue was prepared to kill them, but as a bounty hunter, does he not have a way to contain people? Like, surely he takes contracts where he wants someone alive. He doesn't just take dead or alive, and by that I mean dead contracts.
I mean, with the Doctor, he did use what he's using right now here. I think it would just be irresponsible if he only had the 3.
Right, but by the way, how did those back 2 get into place?
That is unfortunate. Distinctly, when they showed that during the wedding, they're like, "You've only got 1," and then the 2 were already down there. I went, "That's not
I
right."
didn't actually catch that on my first watch through. Because on the second, I went, "Hang on, they were just like up on the balcony. They didn't even show like a cut to a hand. Like they didn't even try and like pretend. It was just like, or like if you dropped them from the balcony."
That one was brutal for me.
If you can teleport those things there, why can't you tell Ruby out? Why not use Battlier rings if you always have them? They're non-lethal,
A little unfortunate.
Yeah, this one's plot. I hope we could all agree, even if you like this episode, its plot is... It's not quite Dot and Bubble, but it's kind of close, It's not quite. I think I had a few. I'm just gonna... Okay, do you have anything on the Doctor's whole, like, how long do they live? 600 years. Good. That's a long time to suffer. Like 15's inner 10 coming out here.
Yes, I liked it. And it felt not like the Doctor. But it was a big moment because Ruby's supposedly, as far as the Doctor's concerned, dead. And so after being healthy for this whole season, like just being angry and mean for a second, I was like, cool.
It's like 10, maybe kind of like 7. I don't think it's as unlike some of the incarnations as you might think, but it's dark. I think this is an aspect of 15, because remember, when the first time Ruby died, his takedown of the Goblin King was very physical, very brutal. He literally impaled the guy. I don't think it's being interwoven into the character as well as it was for 10. And I think we can discuss this hopefully more the last round. Maybe even we'll do a retrospective stream on how well they've characterized 15. Because I've mentioned before, I'm kind of struggling to kind of really get 15 and kind of nail his character, unlike Rogue. But same with Ruby and the Doctor. We've done you didn't even clock the joke. Come on. I'm struggling to nail the Doctor, unlike Rogue.
Oh,
Fine.
that's yeah.
There we go.
I did
Yeah,
not.
they're struggling a bit with the character.
I'm sorry, my mind doesn't live in the gutter.
I had to go back to that one.
I'm sorry.
The Doctor and
I have
Ruby. No. It's a joke you move on from.
Clean mind.
The Doctor and Ruby, they're kind of struggling a bit with characterization. Ruby's a lot better, but I think 15's out of any Doctor, he's the one I'm really struggling to get a character. I've got blurs, but not really like a definition.
Yeah, I liked in this moment at the end though. There's like a small emotional moment between Ruby and the Doctor, and the Doctor's like, "All right, let's go." And Ruby's like, "You don't know. We can calm down. We can take a second. You don't have to be like this." And he says like, "I have to be like this because I am like this." And then just gets up on his feet and goes again. And I mean, liked that moment.
It's true. Oh, go on.
Well, yeah, it just goes back to like, yeah, the characterization of this Doctor being sort of flimsy. It's like whenever I do get a glimpse of the character, it's like, oh, cool, that's a part of you.
It kind of feels like, though, he is supposed to have just come off like an entire regeneration of therapy from the fact that he never stopped running. It almost feels like he's regressing, which might be what they're going for. But at the same time, you could kind of view it as... That's the Dr. Russell T. Davies wrote, like 9 and 10. That's what he did before. And he wrote that therapy thing with 14, specifically so he could kind of shed all this angst that the Time War had been looming over the series for the past 13 seasons. But now he kind of is just going back to always running and never stopping. Like, the therapy was amazing for him, and it really opened him up and did a lot of good. But now it's starting to see, we're kind of getting enough of these instances where it also seems to have not really worked. And he still is like, right, time to go. So much to see. Gotta move on. Can't think about what's happened. I'll see where it goes. And I have to keep remembering this wasn't written by Russell T. Davies. It really feels like it should have been. It really does. This is such a Russell T. Davies thing. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I was going to say I might even think that Yaz and 13 was a better relationship than the Doctor and Rose, and that one's like queer baiting that somehow predictably doesn't even end on a lesbian kiss.
Yes.
Trust me, that's like the biggest insult I could give to anybody. Is to compare them to that's hard. I mean, I could say Ryan, but Yaz is unfortunately the longest serving companion by, I think, real world time so far. Imagine like a plank of wood, but it's a lesbian plank of wood. That's yes. Okay, I know you have to leave soon, so I want to get our rankings of Rogue down. As I said before, Alex gave this an 8.5. Kaden, I can let you see.
I gotta look at this.
Previous episodes. Oh, and now they can't see the stream. There we go. You gotta.
There.
You've got a few 6s and 5s actually. You're either like it was really good or it was a meh. I think Alex probably gave it a 9 and they've forgotten and went down to 8.5. But or maybe that that's just the hype wearing off at first.
I think the highest rating I could give this is a 9.
You could please the fans. Oh, David C gave it a 9. David C, we've disagreed once again. I think there was something else we disagreed on.
But I do think if I gave this a 9, I would bring down my 73 yards to an 8 point something. Or
so this was better than 73 yards.
I think it might have been. But at the same time, I don't know if I could live with this being an 8.5.
I mean, you could just say it's a 9 and 73 yards is a different kind of 9. If you wanted.
I'll give this a 8.75.
8.75, which makes this the second best episode for you. Behind Boom by a decent chunk. Man, you've messed up the spacing.
No, wouldn't this make me the third best episode?
Yes, I didn't see
73 yards and then Rogue.
We'll do what's it called? IMDb after this. David C., I'm about to make you look up how to retract a $25 donation. Hang on, I want to see. Plus, wait, what? Oh, yeah. I did divide it by 3, even though it's 2 scores. Or... 4. I'll do a 4.
Wow.
I said, okay, look, Space Babies. Hang on, by the way, this brings the average down to 7.0833333333. Space Babies, right? We kind of shit on it. But if you remember, Space Babies wasn't actually bad. It was just like aggressively middling.
Yeah.
And I think both of us gave it a 5, specifically because we went, you know what? First episode of the season, I'm happy to say this is the dividing line between a good and a bad episode.
Yeah.
But Space Babies had Eric, and Eric had some great lines, right? Like, I remember Eric. Honestly, that's like a highlight of it. If I take anything away from Space Babies, it's Eric. And that Russell T Davies still writes fart jokes. But to me, Rogue just didn't have, like, an Eric. And it's weird, because Rogue didn't really do anything to deserve a low score. I know, like, by the way, I was debating a 3, but that brings the average to 6.7, and I was like, nah. On my second watch through, it was worse.
Oh.
But what was I talking about? I don't even remember. I was about to justify. Yeah, Rogue didn't really have an Eric. The plot was kind of messy. I didn't, as we've established, I didn't connect with the relationship. The Shulka doctor, who you're lucky I don't go down to 3.9. There were even a bunch of notes I didn't really get into. Oh yeah, no, thank God, actually. Here's a plus. We finally got to see how Carla reacted to Ruby and what she thinks about the Doctor's travels. Even though it's been 5 episodes since we set that up. I like that. Alex started to say something. I went, no, shh. I've been waiting a month for this, Alex. Like, I did like that. It would have been funny, though. Okay, maybe they moved it because it would have been funny if we saw that scene with Carla and then we saw Ruby die 3 times. Like, you know? But, like, arguably the scene would have added impact to each one of those deaths individually. Like, why was this the special one?
Yeah.
I wonder. Especially as a guest writer. Was there a bit that they saw that they had written originally, but maybe, like, Space Babies overran and, like, Rogue, Russell T. Davies thought it worked better? I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened. Because you'd still need to show them meeting. You'd need to establish that Carla knows about the Doctor.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in Rogue, because it'd just be random and out of place.
Yeah,
so I
do
guess
wish it
you
came
do it in
sooner.
Space Baby. I bet that's what happened, you know?
I would have liked it to have come sooner.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's a structural issue, which, again, this season is full of. Ranking this season is going to be interesting. My wife gave me a little tease, and it's like, it's a lot lower than mine, even though, as we've established off screen, Alex has consistently ranked this the highest between, like, me and Caden. Alex's lowest score is 6.9. Like, Alex is 9, 7, 8.5, 6.9, 8, 8.5, 8.5. Me and you are both kind of over the place, and I'm especially now. I'm more over the place. Like 7, 5.
The highest
8.
and the lowest score.
I do, but Boom doesn't deserve that 10. Let's be honest. We've said this before. Boom does not deserve that 10. I want to check IMDb. Doctor Who Rogue. Interesting one, right? Interracial, homosexual, gay kiss. I don't know why I said gay twice. But what do you think? I should have written these down, though. But what do you think IMDb gave this in the first, like, 4 days?
High.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the other episodes just at a peek. I don't think I can see them all in a list. Oh, all episodes. I can see them in a list. So yeah, IMDb in order, starting at church. 6.9, 5.3, 6.4, so it was shaky at the start. But then 8, 8.3, 7.4, and then Rogue is also currently sitting at 7.4. So like the consensus says this is as good as Dot and Bubble. I'm actually interested. The consensus is, yeah, now you go. You ranked this way better than Dot and Bubble. Oh, is that your problem? Yeah, that's your problem. Okay, fair enough. You're consistent. That's an odd take to me, actually. I don't know why, but that one feels odd. Bear in mind, there's probably some review bot, some homophobic racists have managed to get this far into Doctor Who. I'd love to see a breakdown of, but IMDb doesn't seem to give you that. So I'm surprised it is a 7.4 though. Going off the Reddit, I would have expected it higher. But I was even seeing a fair amount of people who were saying this was the best one of the season, which you wouldn't agree with looking. You wouldn't fight it. It looks like you'd be like, oh, okay. It was great for those Bridgerton Doctor Who fan base, where that Venn diagram overlaps. This is for you.
The best episode ever.
This is the best one. I'm in that Doctor Who bubble though, so it just wasn't. It's just, I don't know, the vibes or something was off. I am finding it interesting though that how varied. I don't have it set up where the stream can see this, unfortunately, but how varied our scores are. I'll set it up to show it properly in the final episode. Our averages are really consistently settling at like 7 to 8 ish. Church basically doesn't really count, 7.3. Space Babies, 5.8. We all know Space Babies. But then our average is 8, 8.7, 8.3, 7.6, 7. So technically we're getting worse as time goes on. Collectively, I do feel like those averages are a little low, though, if I'm being honest. Are you of time if I just calculate the average of our averages?
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
0.3 plus 5.8341 plus 8, 8.7. I should have really done this in a spreadsheet. So I might move this over to a spreadsheet. Just like how I'm going to upload sped up versions of season 1 of Doctor
Who. Right.
I'm gonna, but God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.5. Yeah, no, that's too low. This isn't a C. This isn't a C. This is a B.
Maybe the next two will be 10s for all of us.
Well, Russell T Davies in finales. You know how I was talking about you want a emotional but nonsensical when Rose leaves? Guess what episode she leaves. But no, we'll get answers. We'll enter the spoil zone because we're just before those two-parters. So you can leave if you don't want spoilers. We'll end real quick. We'll learn who Susan Twist is. That's gotta happen. Yep. We know she's in it is like a main role. She's got it. She's the bad wolf. We're gonna know. I'm still on Sutek. I'm still on Sutek. The funny thing is the season of Doctor Who with Pyramids of Mars, the episode that introduces Sutek, is the only Fourth Doctor season I don't own. Like, God. But
inconvenient.
If only they told the Blu-ray people. I don't know. I saw a clip, right? I want to be careful of Susan Twist standing before the sign. I mentioned there was like some pun thing. It was like I think it might have even been S Twist Technologies. So Susan Twist might weirdly be playing herself. But like Sue Tech, like S Tech, Sue Tech, it's there. It isn't
brutal.
a Fifth Doctor. That's the only thing. Didn't you like the Bogeyman? And what else did we have? Like like half the episodes had a pun in them.
Yeah.
He's just not Fifth Doctor, and that's the only thing that throws me. I like maybe they'll also bring Guardians. I'd love to hear once he retires again or after this season, because he doesn't want to say I'm doing the Doctors again, because then we'd be like, oh, you're doing Valeyard, for next season. Like, if he's like, I really want to do a fifth, but maybe like, man, his monsters suck. I don't know. We talked this. He's got he's got like 2 of his 3 seasons have just a bunch of recurring villains. He's really only got. In fact, wait, is Kinda's 5th Doctor? The Mara's the only one he has. Like the only sort of iconic villain that he has, unless hilariously we want to bring back Colin Baker as Commander Maxwell, the guy that played the 6th Doctor, and that's just a big snake. Like, I don't know. You could bring the big snake back, but like it'd be kind of underwhelming. He's sort of a god.
Yeah.
You could do it, but like Sutek was just more engaging. Fans love this episode though. There's 2, and fans love them, and I need to give it another rewatch because I remember being kind of meh. Yeah, this is when Doctor Who. Oh, actually, Caden, we need to watch Kinda. No, you want bad VFX? I own this season. We need to watch Kinda.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
This is the villain. You want to bring this guy back? Is the hang on stream? You want to bring this back? Is like your main villain? Could I? You know. Do you know, like, the whole world would just lose its mind if literally that right there was the villain?
Yeah.
I kind of hope now it is actually something like the Doctor and Ruby are in a TV show, and the main villain has a low budget.
Oh, that'd be
like,
funny.
the show would end. That's the cancellation. Disney ends the deal. Like, that's the end of Doctor Who, but it would be an ending. It would be, you know,
glorious. Dying with a message.
It would go down in history. It's that time Doctor Who did the inflatable snake, like in 2024,
died
with Disney money, and then died. Like that'd be the new Game of Thrones. Like,
yeah.
Like the show just 60
Perfect
years down
end.
the drain. Big Finish closes its doors. Everyone burns their Doctor Who novels. It's just every Doctor just dies. You wake up the next morning and it's like every Doctor Who actor has died. You know, they're just in shame. God, Kinda. I think it's the Mara. That's what it's called. You want to bring back the Mara? We're doing the Shulka Doctor. Can you imagine if instead of Richard E. Grant, it was just the Flash animation face in the hologram?
Oh gosh.
God, that would have been just.
That would have been awful. Couldn't have forgiven that one.
Oh, that's where you draw the line, is the animation.
Yeah.
Because it's Flash animation, right? It's like, you know, it's 2003 Flash animation, so you don't have to download it. It looks like Flash animation, but
yeah.
But it's got Derek Jacobi playing the Master, and he is the best Master. I should watch it. I bet I could find it online somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah, that does look. He looks like a vampire, man. It's like a weird.
He kind of does.
Like, why? It's a weird look for the Doctor. Well, it's because it's Flash. It's super dark, because that's just what Flash animation is.
Yeah.
So it's super gothic.
Yeah.
It's got David Tennant in it, though, as, like, warehouse worker number 2.
Yeah,
David Tennant is adorable. Like, he became an actor specifically to be the Doctor. I know, welcome to Spoiler Zone. But, so, of course, he probably would have really gotten into acting around the time it was canceled. But he took every opportunity under the sun to be in Doctor Who. He begged to play warehouse worker number 2. Like, he's in Big Finish as a character named Daft Jamie in, like, a 6th Doctor adventure. He's also a Time Lord judge in, like, a non-canon one. He's also a Nazi soldier in a 7th Doctor. Like, before he became the 10th Doctor, he takes every opportunity to be in. It's almost amazing he wasn't in Doctor Who the one season before. Actually, no, he did. He worked with Russell T Davies on Casanova or something like that while they were filming season 1. And he learned Russell T Davies was making season 1, and he begged. He was like, anything. I'll be anything. And then he was like, Eccleston just quit. It's like he didn't offer the job then and there, but he was like, I do need a 10. Like it was he's adorable. And now of course he still does, like, he goes to do 10 like with Big Finish whenever he's got some spare time. Well, he makes time because he wants to go be the 10th Doctor, and he's like such a bit. You want to see David Tennant 5th Doctor. You want to see when David Tennant got his stepdad to let him try on his doctor outfit. And he's like,
oh,
yeah, they're great. Peter Davison loves showing this photo around. Like, he likes going. They have like the fun little rivalry of like, he's not that cool, like, you know, he's not that special, because Peter Davison is kind of like the nobody's favorite Doctor, you know. And so he seems to be in good fun about it, but he's like, you know, he goes to these conventions, but he's never anyone's favorite Doctor. To be fair, he is, but it's a rare pick. He's David Tennant's favorite Doctor, but David Tennant, you know, is so many people's favorite Doctor. He's often has interaction with fans. It's like, am I your favorite Doctor? It's like, no. It's like, it's David, isn't it? It's like, you know, do you want to see when he made me, he came to my house to put on my Doctor costume? And like, he shows people the picture. Because David Tennant is just a massive nerd. I love.
That's so wholesome.
I love. Oh, he's such a good guy too. Hang on, there's a promotional shot. I know. Welcome to the spoiler zone. I lied. You know. Doctor Who season 2. Because guess what? I'm getting reference images for a thumbnail. I've always loved this. This, I think it's one of the first. It might even be the first image for when they announced the 10th Doctor. David Tennant is the 10th Doctor. And that smile, that's not acting. That's like, oh my God.
He's so happy.
To be Doctor Who. It looks like he's trying to do a serious photo. You got Billy Piper over here like, yeah, I'm Rose. But you got David Tennant like, oh my God. Like, Tom Baker did this. This is my photo shot. Like, I get to be the Doctor. He's just such a big, adorable nerd. And
it's so good.
I know. Every other one, he kind of gets it under control. But for his first one, it's like...
Kid in a candy store.
This was literally his life dream, is to be the Doctor. He's adorable. But yeah, we gotta wrap it up with my reputation in shambles, but $25 richer. So, you know, I guess that's still the YouTube life, isn't it? So any closing words before I let him go? You better not put me on this time pressure for the final episode, I'll tell you that much.
I am just excited to see, because the next two are connected, right?
Yeah, it's not called Parts 1 and 2, but Wikipedia has it listed as like 308 A and B story-wise, and it's confirmed. They're like a two-parter. It's called The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Like, come on.
Look, answers to questions that I have might get answered, and that's exciting.
Actually, what are your questions? What do we want from that?
What is Ruby?
What is Ruby?
What is happening? Like, hopefully those get answered.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too fussed about that mystery. Like, I want an answer, but it's kind of like, you've set that up. It's just like, this is what the finale is for me. I just hope, you know, it's at least an 8. You know, Russell T. Davies, this is your time to prove. Your plots were never that great. And your finales in particular, he gets a lot of slack. Season 1 finale's good, but otherwise, a lot of slack for, like, turning the Doctor into a god and pulling some random thing out of his ass to save the day, because he's written himself into a corner. Here's your time to show the past, like, 20 years have made you a better writer. I'm not hoping for a miracle. I mean, I've seen Dot and Bubble and, you know, all these other episodes. Give me a theme. You know what? That'd be cool. Somehow tie together some nice theme. I want to walk away from this season having him really pulled off what he wanted.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some bad episodes of television, right? And I've seen some good seasons of television. And the one I like to give is season 2 of Star Trek Picard is god-awful. It's god-awful. But it's got 3, like, main narrative character beats it wants to hit, and it nails all of them. So when I think back, my opinion is much higher than it deserves. Like, because I've forgotten all the little stuff, and, like, the countless little ways it fails, because it does those 3 things well, and it earns it.
Yeah.
Season 3 of Picard has 9 fantastic episodes. Unfortunately, it's 10 episodes long, and that last one is the worst finale I've ever seen. It's even to like a different set of 9 episodes, just totally different, completely jumps rails. It's awful. And because it's like the final thing that ties up the story, my opinion of season 3 of Picard is way lower than it deserves based off the individual episodes. So like, don't ruin the season with a finale. You know, we're episodic. You'd have to really mess things up. And keep those fans. You know, keep the fans wanting to come back for Joy to the World in December.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually make Ruby die in both episodes, because then she'll have died in half. Yeah, we gotta keep that up.
That'll fix.
That's
that'll
important.
Make things right.
Rory's kind of underrated, and we need like to do Rory, you know, again. Yeah. Well then.
One of them.
I will wrap it up. Yeah, well, again, I know whether or not Ruby is in season 2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is known, right? But you don't. You don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I won't tell you. You know, I mean, I'll tell you. How about I'll tell you after the finale if you want.
Yeah.
You know that. I'll tell you that. It might be obvious at that point, but Ruby dies. It's like, oh yeah. They just kind of like sit her up in a chair. It's in her corpse just slowly rots. No, just like in the TARDIS. No, in a wheelchair. It's like a slowly rotting corpse.
Over the
Every
course of the
episode,
season.
It's a little worse. Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, it's interesting direction. You know, it's a new direction for the series.
Dr. Snaps is in full denial and just talks to Ruby all the time.
Yeah, he's great. A doctor who just that's. Alternate future 11th Doctor right there, honestly. Like when Amy leaves, he like goes crazy and builds like little dolls or something. He's got I could see 11 with like a hand puppet. It's like, right, Amy? It's like he's got a Rory hand puppet. He just loses it. Wow. You know, couldn't have been worse for the show than what they did do, though. You know, to be fair, season 7's kind of where it starts.
Oh.
No, season 7's pretty good. It's where it starts. You know, it's where it starts. But I will say thank you all very much for watching, and actually, it should be we, isn't it? We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I